hello, I was doing a little bit of clearing out recently when I found this. This is my first mobile phone. It's called an Orbitel 902, and it was one of the first digital mobile phones ever manufactured. In fact, this one dates from 1995. If you think it looks rather large, well, just for a bit of perspective, this is a brindle block. In fact, mobile phones have gone from being quite large, cumbersome objects like this one to this. This is my latest mobile phone. It's a Sony Xperia, and it'll make more than calls. It's a little computer in its own right, and I can use it to store all sorts of information and also to connect to the internet. It's quite amazing, isn't it, that in less than a generation we've gone from landline telephones, which we usually had to wait months to get installed and there were always problems with them, to the latest mobile technology where we can contact the world from anywhere. It's amazing, isn't it, that in less than a generation there's been a huge leap forward in information and communications technology. It's entered into every part of our lives, so much so that I find it difficult to remember what things were like before mobile technology, before satellite television, before the internet. All I know is that we used to manage perfectly well without them. All sorts of architecture has sprung up to make modern communications technology work. Here are a few examples of it in Felixstowe. Some of it is so unobtrusive that we don't notice, but some of it is just a blot on the landscape. How did people used to manage before we had modern technology, or even electricity for that matter? Well, if they couldn't visit, there were letters, messengers, and even carrier pigeons. But what about fast communication? How did they do that? You'll find one early method in the Clifflands car park. Here's the old Felixstowe beacon. I'm not quite sure when this one dates from. It looks recent, but it points to the way in which beacons were put on high points like this along the coast to warn of invasion. It was a crude and quick way of sending a warning message, but other more effective methods were invented even before the advent of telegraph, telephone and radio. Landguard Fort developed to protect the Suffolk side of the entrance to Harwich Harbour. Over the years, defences were built up here and over on the Harwich side. Before the days of radio, how did people over on this side communicate with people on the other side? Or for that matter, communicate with ships? Bit of technology, say in 1800, were things like flags, semaphore and lights. The most famous flag communication was perhaps this one. England expects every man to do his duty. Otherwise, people resorted to pigeons, horseback messengers, or, if there wasn't any particular need for speed, the regular mail. I wonder what soldiers sitting in Landguard Fort in the early 19th century, contemplating possible invasion, would have thought of modern communication that allows people to browse information from Australia, or look at sports events in India, and view a webcam of a beach in Kenya. They would probably have found it beyond their imagination, and it was just about beyond our own imagination just 50 years ago. So we have all this technology, and it's great. But has it changed us as a human race? Has it made us any more civilized? The problem is that the same technology that we use and enjoy at home is also used in weapon systems, in missile guidance or spy satellites. However sophisticated we become, human nature never seems to change. Actually, there's quite a lot that doesn't change. For example, in business and in government, there's lots of access to all this technology, emails and mobile phones and the internet and all the rest of it. But most businessmen or civil servants or politicians would tell you that they much prefer to do the business face to face if they could. There's no substitute for looking someone in the eye. Actually, down the ages, God has spoken to the human race in many ways. He's often chosen messengers, prophets and the like. And these folks wrote down what God wanted to say to us. And we can find the record of what God wanted to say to us in a book. And of course that book is the Bible. But God was also a God who desired to be a face-to-face God. And God spoke to us in one very special way, by becoming one of us. Let me give you a few verses from the Gospel of John that describes this. It says this: "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made." And then John goes on to say this: "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth." God spoke to us in a very special way, by becoming one of us. Jesus said this of himself: "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life." Jesus came in order to make a way by which each one of us can know God and can make sense of life and make sense of eternity. But there's also another amazing thing about God, which as a Christian I find just amazing. And it's something that hasn't changed either in the last few thousand years. You see, in all that time, God has been contactable by human beings. Contact is instant, anywhere in the world, at any time. It requires no special technology, and the method is available to all, free of charge. It's called prayer, and God is just a prayer away. It's simple to talk to him, just as you talk to any other person. You don't need any special person to communicate with God, and you don't need to say any mystical words to him. Just talk. God became a human being that we might know him in a personal way. And he wants to hear from all of us. So why not connect with him today? Thanks for listening, and God bless you.